Awesome, man. This is a long time in the waiting. I know Alex has been saying he's been working with you for a minute. Not about what, he's kept that to himself, but just the fact that you guys were collaborating. So I was excited to get the opportunity to have a sit down with you, a man, a myth, a legend in our presence. So I want to get to know.
Oh, come on.
Get to know more about you, man. Get to meet you finally. Yeah. So this is Voices of the Industry podcast, where we have a chance to sit down with people from the industry, from the film and television, get to know more about why they got into doing what they do, shed some light on your experience, and impart some knowledge on people who want to get into the field and do something similar along the lines of whether it be Alex and I, who's also sitting with me, the co-host Alex, for this interview, whether they want to get into the compositing realm, into the visual effects side, or whether they want to become a writer. So just want to introduce everybody to Jimmy Diggs. Right off. In case you weren't wondering, he's got some experience working on something that, I'm pretty sure both Alex and I were influenced. We both grew up and love watching Star Trek. I don't know who isn't a Trekkie. I think that's the biggest question. Who doesn't have a favorite Star Trek show or film that they grew up on? And he got to work on some of the shows, from my understanding, Voyager and Deep Space Nine.
Well, I got a WGA internship on Star Trek The Next Generation. Mm-hmm. And that allowed me to work on 8 of the last episodes of that series. And that's how I learned my craft. And once you complete an internship, you will be placed on the pitch rotation roster. Mm-hmm. So on my very first pitch to Star Trek, I sold, and I kept selling on subsequent episodes until I wound up selling more episodes to Star Trek than any other freelance writer in the history of the franchise. And like you mentioned, that was 8 Voyager episodes and 1 Deep Space Nine. And at one point, just before Star Trek Enterprise was canceled, the executive producer of the series was ready to adopt my new villain for the franchise into the 5th season. And I came into the studio with a movie quality maquette, which is a sculpture of the character and the villain species, and a 35-page treatment. And Manny Cotto, who was the executive producer at the time, fell in love with the aliens, and he kept my maquette in his office for the next 3 months of the series. And my villain species was going to be the brand new villain of the Star Trek franchise, but the series got canceled before we could bring him out. As Alex will tell you, I am constantly working on brand new ideas, and some of my ideas have gotten in front of some very important people in Hollywood, and they're very interested. But I was able to work out of San Diego my entire career up until 2015, and then I noticed my residuals were drying up. So I figured I would have to get back in the mix and get some more sales going. I decided that I needed to come to Los Angeles. For all I would do is take the train from San Diego. Paramount had a shuttle back then, so I'd pick up the shuttle at the train station, go to Paramount, pitch my ideas. They'd call me, tell me which ones they were going to buy, and then I'd write the story and send it to them. So I really never had to spend a great amount of time in Los Angeles. The 3 months that I was interning was the longest time I'd ever spent in LA. But I realized I had to do something. So I decided to go to post-production school out of Burbank, and the VA was going to pay for it. So I said, okay, I might as well. So I moved to LA, started going to post-production school. I never really wanted to be an editor, but I wanted to learn how to talk to editors and post-production people so that I could enhance my production values and really work with them on a higher level than just some layman walking in who doesn't know what's going on. So they trained me how to edit on Avid, just a lot of post-production techniques. And so when I decided to produce my own trailer to sell one of my projects, I met Alex. And Alex is well-schooled in a lot of post-production technologies and techniques. And so I asked him if he would be the special effects supervisor on my trailer. And he agreed. And that's where we started to collab and work together. And I said, look, Alex, I need some work on these other things. And I had another guy who was doing editing. Alex was well-schooled in how to add a lot of things in the post-production segment that the other guy couldn't do. So Alex and I started pushing the envelope. And I started asking Alex to do crazy things that he didn't know about. So he'll tell you I was constantly pushing him out of his comfort zone because I trusted him. I needed the work done. Was it Woody Allen who said that 95% of success is just showing up?
Mm-hmm.
That is the truth. One thing about Alex, he always showed up. He was always on time. He always got his assignments done on time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized I had somebody with a significant work ethic, I mean, even if I called him late at night, and which has happened many times, oh man, so-and-so is going to look at this time. We got to get it done by tomorrow, man. You know, he'd get it done. Or say, oh man, we got to do this. We got to add this. And then also he has the creative tools that I can actually discuss pre-production with. Like last night, we were talking about a project and I was bouncing ideas off him. And the cool thing is Alex is a gamer and I'm a gamer. When you're a gamer, you can look at these projects from a multi-platform standpoint because you can see how it could be a movie. You can see how it could be a tabletop game. You can see how it could be a computer game. When you're working with somebody like Alex, you end up creating franchises, not just individual projects, right? And he understands that. So we talk that gamer logic. And when I went to Video Symphony, it's closed now, but when I went to Video Symphony for post-production, I more or less learned how to talk his language before I met him. So now we can talk as gamers, we can talk as post-production people, we can talk about pre-production, all that. Right now, I got to tell you, biggest people in Hollywood are looking at our stuff. And they've been very impressed by my pre-production side and his post-production side. I've gotten very strong comments about what he's done to our trailers. And I'm not going to tell you much about our trailers because that's like my secret weapon. And we've created a totally different kind of trailer. And we send these trailers to the studios, and they're not like anything anybody's ever seen before. Every time we send these trailers to somebody, the studio says, okay, we're interested. They want more meetings, or they will actually commit to it. That's how we got our current finance. And that's how we got about a half dozen of some of Hollywood's biggest talents interested. So I don't think we've ever gotten a no once we show somebody our special trailer. I don't think we've ever gotten a no. So we're just waiting for all these different components to come together. And we may have some big announcements by next month because we've got one-on-one meetings with some A-list talent. But I tell you what, when it comes out, you'll be able to say, oh, Jimmy Dix told us about it first, you know? And I'm really happy. I think even Alex has been surprised at some of the thumbs up that we've been getting all over town.
That's awesome, man.
I don't know, maybe Alex can tell you about maybe some of the ways that we've been working that kind of surprised him. Don't drop any names on him.
Well, good description without doing any sort of name dropping. A lot of what we've been doing is either expanding on an existing IP or developing something original and historical. Jimmy loves his history and events from all over the world and different eras, and taking major events that have happened and expanding those into a palatable story that somebody can watch in either a movie or series kind of format. A lot of the trailers and artwork that we've been developing has been geared toward not even for public consumption so much as giving the studio executives a visual guide to go along with what they're reading for a pitch or a developed idea.
We don't develop anything for public consumption.
Yeah.
These trailers are not supposed to be viewed by the public. These are for studio executive eyes only.
It's the kind of thing that won't even make it on a behind the scenes or into an art book, that kind of thing, because it's the idea to get the product sold, so to speak, rather than having a complete and developed visual to something that would actually carry on throughout an entire project. It's enough to get the creative juices flowing for the people with the money.
Yeah, I think I could imagine that too, just because you're talking to guys that they got the deep pockets, but you want to have them be able to envision what it is that you're trying to pitch to them, to sell them on this idea. And they just want just that little bit extra to be able to visualize it, you know?
You got to remember the guys we're pitching to, there's no telling how many projects they get pitched to or how much coverage they read on different projects in a day. they may go through dozens of pitches a week. So how are you going to stand out? You know, that's the real challenge, because you could have the best script in the world, but if you can't sell it, if you can't pitch it, you're dead in the water. Okay. What we try to do with the trailers, I mean, there are a lot of people doing trailers, but we try to do it in a format that we can afford to do, for one. Because the first time I ever did one of these trailers, I spent $15,000 on it, shooting it, the makeup, the wardrobe, the special effects, both cameras, renting the cyclorama studio, even paying for acting lessons for some of the actors that I got. But I was determined to get it made, and I was working a day job so that I could get together that $15K. But just like everything else, once you do something, you learn how to do it more economically. Plus, it's an act of futility to try to do a trailer the way the rest of the studios do. I don't know if you remember hearing or not, but Game of Thrones, their first trailer that they did to sell the project cost $1 million, and it failed to do the job. Studio didn't like it. $1 million on a trailer, and that trailer more or less flopped. They had to reshoot another trailer, and that's when they sold Game of Thrones. I can't compete with that. My little $15K was a ridiculous drop in the bucket. So what I did was I rented a movie theater twice. The first time we had a screening for the trailer, invited studio people all there, you know, and threw it up there, and it was okay. I was a bit frustrated because a lot of the people from studios I invited didn't show up. So then I tried another crack at it, this time a table read. And it was all the actors that I had hired from the trailer on the stage around a big table reading the script. And fortunately for me, somebody was there. I didn't expect them to be the person who had massive connections in Hollywood. And from the table read the whole script, that person had also seen the trailer. And they were so impressed. But when they heard the table read, one of the things that this person said, that whenever you go to another table read in Hollywood, everybody's on their phone, right? Until their line comes around, and then they do their line, then they're done with their scene, they go back on their phone, okay? And this person said, during my table read, nobody was on the phone. They weren't just interested in their part. They got involved in the whole script. And that person got a hold of me the next morning, flipping out. I'd never heard this person swear before. And they were crazy. Oh my God, Jimmy, you got to get this out there. They're going to steal this from you, man. You got to go out there and you got to sell it. And I'm going to help you. And I'm going to open some doors for you. And blah, 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 blah. And you got to get out there. You got to get out there right now. They're going to steal it. Damn it, Jimmy, they're going to steal it. You know, so they went full force. I'm not going to mention their name, but Alex knows them very well now. And this person wasn't lying. Boy, did they have connections. They introduced me to our finance people. They introduced me to the A-list people and some of the biggest producers. All these people, all the people that this person introduced me to, they jumped on board. Okay. Unfortunately, another huge star, Cecily Tyson, really wanted to be a part of this project. And she was going to be, but she passed away before we could get everything in line.
Wow.
Yeah. Matter of fact, one of the producers that I'm talking to, really big name, working with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood on some of the biggest movies. He told me I could sell the series now. I could sell it right now. But he said, if I did that, I wouldn't be in charge of the writer's room. Because all of my Star Trek credits, though they're substantial, they're dated now. And he said, the truth is, Hollywood is not going to put me in charge of $1 million budget with the credits I got now. But he said, if you sell one more project, I can convince the studio to let you be in charge of the writer's room. Now, I don't want to be the showrunner, at least not yet, but I do want control of the writer's room. After I do the first season, then I'm eligible to go to WGA show writers school. After the first season, then I'll go off and do the show writers room. And then I can just keep control of the writer's room while I'm doing that. I've already written the first 2 episodes of this series, and I'll probably write the other 8 myself, just to set down a template for how the seasons and the episodes should unfold. But after that, I'm going to let the writer's room run with it. Nobody's going to have my unique vision and spin on the series. He thinks that the way I have envisioned all these characters in this historical situation is so unique that he doesn't think anybody else would be able to pull it off. Not the way I would. That's what we're doing. We're just getting all our ducks in a row on this. I got to make that one sale. And we think 2 or 3 of the things I've handed in so far, it could be that one sale. I've handed in 2 movie scripts, and they've both garnered a lot of attention. So once one of these movies sells, then I'm sure we're going to go full steam ahead on the series.
No, it's very exciting, man. Having all that stuff line up and potentially pop off and move forward with what you want to do next. That's awesome. Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you was, Alex and I, we've worked with a lot of VFX side of things, and we don't really have much insight on Alex probably has a bit more than I do now, what it's like, writing and developing these projects. But I was wondering, first of all, how do you get into writing?
I always felt the writer was the most important person in the creative process, always. But I didn't think I had what it took to be a writer. I was doing security. I had worked, I don't know if you're old enough to remember PSA Airlines. They're the planes that had the big smile on. I was working at the airline, and it merged with US Air. And I kind of lost my job in the shuffle. I was working 2 jobs to try to make up the difference in the money. And I ended up doing security for Stu Siegel Productions. At the time, they were shooting in San Diego, and they had Renegade and Silk Stockings and a couple other things. They were constantly shooting movies of the week down there. So I'm guarding the cruise parking lot. This one actor walks up to me, and I was a lot thinner and everything then. And he walks and says, "Hey, man, you got an interesting look. You should really try out for one of these roles, And he brought me a pizza from Craft Services, when we were sitting there talking. And I said, yeah. He goes, they feed you out here. And I went, what? So, yeah, and they do. These trucks come in that serve gourmet meals, especially Stu Siegel. He was really taking care of his people. You know what I mean? That was helping out the budget because, the family was eating at home and I was eating on the set all the time. I remember I went on my birthday to see what would happen to the casting office. I wore a business suit, right? And they took one look at me and they said, we think we could use you as a lawyer on Silk Stockings. So I ended up 3 days after I walked in the office, I was on the set of Silk Stockings. I was in a scene with Jimmy Darren. It was so funny. This guy across the street, he saw me and he stopped and he was waving. It was just some passerby. We got the whole film crew out there. We're doing our thing, And finally, on the break, one of the PAs went over to ask the guy, why was he waving and all that stuff? The guy thought I was the uncle from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And he used to tell the guy I'm a fan. So I didn't have the heart to tell him I wasn't that guy. So I just waved and went, "Hey, Will, put that car back." I thought that was pretty cool. So I started saying, well, maybe I can do something with this. So I started going to drama class, studying acting and stuff, and doing more roles and stuff. And I actually ended up getting my Taft-Hartley's, becoming a SAG member in 2 months. Now, I know there are guys in LA who were doing it for years, but San Diego was a small market and there was very little competition. So it turned out to be the right thing to do. Well, anyway, one day I'm in the cruise parking lot because I was security work, acting, anything they needed on the set. I was even driving the camera truck at one point. This executive producer guy lost his keys in the rain. So I was had my flashlight out there trying to help him find the keys. And we found him and stuff, and he was real happy. And I said, "Hey, man, I got some ideas for the show. Who do I talk to?" And he goes, "You talk to me." So he said, "Come down to my office in Burbank on Tuesday, and we'll see what you got." Well, it turns out I was lying. It just seemed like the right thing to say to the right person. I had no ideas whatsoever. So I went and told my drama coach what happened. And she said, "Oh, my God, that's a pitch. You have to have an agent to get those." Right? I said, "Well, what do I do? I don't know what I'm talking about." And she outlined it for me, how to make a pitch, right? And then I ran to the bookstore and I bought a book, How to Write for Television. I read it over the weekend. So I went to his office in Burbank. This was Nick Correa. He had been the executive producer of The Hulk. He was the executive producer of Renegade. And he later left that job to be the executive producer of Walker, Texas Ranger. So I told him my story ideas and he looked at me funny. He goes, "Jimmy, when I invited you here, I thought I was just doing a favor for a fellow Vietnam vet. Says, I thought you'd have a bunch of wacky ideas and I tell you, don't lose your day job." He goes, "Brother, you are an artist. And I want to do that for the first episode next season." I was floored, right? He says, "But you got to write it and it's got to be good." So I ran to the bookstore and bought another book and started reading that. And then I started banging out the baby. I didn't even have a computer. I had a Brother 500 typewriter, with the whiteout and everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm banging away this thing. And I finally got the script done. And he was getting fired by Stephen J. Cannell. Do you remember he's the guy who used to do the typing thing and throw the paper up in the air? I was the executive producer of The A-Team, Wise Guys, like a dozen different television shows he had on the air at the time. Discovered Johnny Depp,
Wow.
So he was getting fired off the show because he and Stephen J. Cannell got into a big argument. He said, Jimmy, I feel really bad. I can't buy the script from you now. What can I do to make it up to you? Well, off the top of my head, I said, who do you know in Star Trek? Well, come to find out that when Nick was the executive producer of The Hulk, he bought the very first scripts ever written by Jerry Taylor and Michael Piller. They were now the executive producers of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Wow. So he fired off my Renegade script to them. They read it, they liked it, and they hired me immediately as a WJ intern on Next Generation. That's how it all started. So I went directly from the parking lot at Stu Siegel's to having my own little office at Paramount, Jimmy Diggs, Star Trek in about 2 months. So I had no idea that I had a talent. Like I said, I always thought writers were the most important person, but I had no idea I'd be any good at it. And the thing is, whenever I got a job, I would always call my mom and tell her what was going on. I would always call my mom, give her the good news, the bad news. Sometimes she would just say, please, don't tell me anything else. I don't want to know. I would tell her if I got into a fight in the bar and got in jail, whatever was going on, I would tell her, okay? So when I called her and told her I got a job as a San Diego firefighter, she went, oh, that's nice, honey. That's good. Then when I called her and told her I got a job at the airline, making more money than the fire department, she went, oh, honey, that's nice. And I figured when I tell her I'm going to be in show business, boy, oh boy, she wasn't impressed by the other stuff. She's going to kill me. When I say I gave up all that stuff to be in show business, I called her and said, Mom, I've decided I'm going to put all my efforts into show business. And she went, it's about time. I'm going, what the hell? Well, you couldn't tell me. Apparently, she made up her mind that I was supposed to be in show business because I was one of the few Black kids to integrate my Catholic high school. I think I was the first one, and then there were 4 others. So a student body of about 900, there was only 5 Black kids.
Wow.
Okay. And I tried out for the drama club. And there was this murder mystery called The Night Is My Enemy. And it's about a doctor who, instead of curing his patients, kills them because he's twisted. He figures he's doing them a favor. And it's really a murder about a blind girl who he's going to make his next victim. And this play is like 100 years old. And you can tell that Scream and these movies are based on that because she's in the house all alone with the killer and she doesn't know it. But the audience knows it. They can see him skulking around, hunting her down. And she's going, is anybody there? That kind of stuff. So I tried out. I got to be the killer, the doctor. And I'm the only Black kid supposed to be Victoria, England. And now I'm the killer, a doctor. And they had to change my wife to a Black actress to accommodate me being in the role. And then my mom came to the play with my sisters and everything. And after the play, when I came out to take my bow, she says the audience exploded. And she said she knew right then that I was supposed to be in Hollywood. But she didn't tell me. I was 39 years old, turned 40 at Star Trek.
Wow.
And she told me nothing about that. Kept it to herself for over 20 years.
Oh, man.
I'm going, why didn't you say something? Even Stephen J. Cannell told me once, because I remember the day I was in my security guard uniform and I walked up to him while he was having lunch with the directors and all of that. And I said, Mr. Cannell, I just want to let you know, I've decided, I've been inspired by what you do and what Nick Correa does. I've decided I'm going to be a writer, right? And he stopped everything. He was getting makeup on to do a scene because he would do cameos. He stopped production, took me over to a picnic table under a tree, and right there, making everybody else wait, he broke down 3-act structure. I still have those notes, And come to find out that was almost exactly what Plato told Aristotle 3,000 years ago. And then he congratulated me on my decision and took my, and then later on, when I finished my internship, I knew that his daughter had been trying to break into writing too. I got her a job at Paramount as a WGA intern. It's like my replacement. I got his daughter in there on another one of my little visits to the set to say hi to him. He said, Jimmy, I always knew you were destined to make it to the industry. He said, because your competition are putzes and you just don't know when to stop. He said, you kept scratching at the door. We had to let you in. Alex probably heard that story about a million times. But Stephen J. Cano predicted that these things were going to happen for me. So now with Alex and some help from my buddy Mark and also from Kevin, we are making this stuff happen, you know? And the first time I ever wrote a script on that typewriter, because there was no internet back then, there was no FedEx and all that stuff. It took me $600 to get that script into digital form. You know what I mean? At almost this mom and pop kind of Xerox transcripting company. But now, if I want to print out a script, technology has gotten so much better. $3, you know, maybe $6, maybe that's it. And a lot of these guys, they want you to send it to them digitally, so it's not zip, nada. And so the same thing happened with these trailers that Alex and I are doing. First one, like I said, $15,000, right? Now I can get the post-production stuff done. Maybe me and Alex are in and out for $200-$300. One thing everybody should keep in mind, everything changes in Hollywood every 3 or 5 years. The way I used to pitch to Star Trek and make sales, that doesn't work anymore. You have to really up your game now. And so that's what Alex and I do. We're always evolving and changing our presentation method to stay ahead of the game, to stay ahead of the curve. And I'm going to tell you, in a couple of years, what we're doing now is not going to work. Maybe by next year, it's not going to work. So we have to stay ahead of the game. But that's how I used to always make sales to Star Trek. I started making a gamer approach to selling episodes of Star Trek because for like almost a whole year, I would come in with my ideas for episodes and the folks at Star Trek said, oh, Jimmy, that's a great idea. Yeah, we bought it last week from another guy. So I was right there. I was in the zone. I kind of knew where they were going to go with the story, but so did other people. So the way I win when I'm playing computer games or whatever, tabletop games, I just don't think one turn ahead. I think 2 turns ahead. So I said, let me get to that zone on Star Trek because I really knew the franchise and I knew the universe very well. So I started acting like it was a game. And the writers in the writer's room, they were my opponents. So I had to get 2 steps ahead of them. As soon as I came in with those stories, that's when I started selling. You know, when I got 2 turns ahead of them, because I was thinking, oh, where are they going to be after this? And sure enough, you could see the light go on in their head in the pitch. And go, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. That's where I am now with Alex. But I'm trying to deal with not just episodes with one production company. My opponents now are the studios and the studio execs and the executive producers who package these things. So I have to say, okay, where are they now? What's going to be important to them 2 turns down the line? And what do I have to do to be standing there, sitting there waiting for them when they get there? And so far, that approach is working for now. Next year, we'll have to switch it up. Matter of fact, Alex and I are thinking of a way to streamline. This has been a conversation we've had over the last 2 days. Streamline what we're doing and come up with an even quicker way of getting it out with these extra bells and whistles. Because the attention span of these executives is, they're that. Have you ever heard of the elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm going to start doing elevator pitch panels at Comic-Con. I used to do how to write for Star Trek panels, but I think I'm going to start doing these elevator pitch panels where I'm going to have an elevator panel made up with the lights for all the floors, right? And we'll call somebody up on stage and we'll have one of those cutouts of Steven Spielberg, one of those paper cutouts, cardboard cutout, and say, okay, you're on an elevator with Steven Spielberg. The elevator's starting to move. What are you going to tell Steven Spielberg by the time that 8th floor bell dings, he's going to say, oh my God, that's awesome. Come into my office and let's talk about it some more. How are you going to capture the attention of Steven Spielberg in 8 floors? Nowadays, a lot of the executives, they read the first 10 pages to decide if they're even remotely interested. And it's gotten so formulaic now that an executive or an agent will read your script, go to page 10 and says, it's really cool, but your page 4 comes 2 pages too late. They've got it so formulaic that they're telling you, well, this has happened on this page, that has happened on that page. And you can get really depressed hearing some crap like that. You say, wait a minute, I spent so much time on the script and you're just going by these rules and regulations. And if I break that regulation by doing something stupid, but it's not as depressing as it sounds. Because in life, just like screenwriting, you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your victories. What he's actually saying to you, he's giving you a compliment. He's talking to you in the shorthand of the industry. If he didn't think that you understood what was going on, he wouldn't waste his time explaining to you. He'd just say the script was bad and you'd be up. Well, no, what he's saying is he can tell by the way you wrote the script, you know the rules. So he can talk to you about the rules. You'll understand what he's saying, and then you'll be able to go back and fix the script. So it's a good thing that he's pointing this out to you, And especially if he starts using like old industry writing slang terms, like, seems a little threadbare, man. But I tell you what, maybe you work on it, we can make a meal out of it. I love it when these old writers start using all this old Hollywood slang terms, I think we need a red herring there. What do you think? Let's hang a lantern on it. I love those old guys when they talk that kind of crap, or when they start talking about MacGuffins and things like that. And nowadays, you're not going to see too many of those old guys, but I would hire those old guys in a minute because they've seen how things have changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're going to have those old skills. And hopefully, if he's adaptive, he'll have the new skills that he can combine with that. Like one of the scripts I just sent in that we're going to be talking about with one of the A-list talents in a couple of weeks. I put in a Gen Z character in there. Alex, you know what character? I didn't know squat about how Gen Z talks. You know what I mean? But I started looking it up. I started researching my Gen Z, and I think it added something to the script because what I would do is I would write this guy's dialogue in standard English that I know. Okay. Then I would paraphrase it in Gen Z, and I think it worked. He sounds really different from everybody else. And the first person to do something like that was Mark Twain with Huckleberry Finn. The woman who wrote Clueless, she used it in her, and I think she won an Oscar for that script. You know what I mean? Because it was talking the way Valley Girls talked back then. Yeah. It worked out really well. So to a certain extent, I guess I'm trying to do that with my Gen Z character. Keeping up with all these new generation talks is pretty cool. I'm old school, baby boomer. You know what I mean?
Right on.
And when I wrote these scenes for the Gen Zer, I had to put myself in their place. A lot of baby boomers, they're all on the Gen Zer's case about you have to work harder, you have to do this, you have to do that. Gen Z is facing challenges that boomers like I never had to face. You know what I mean? And it doesn't seem like because they have so much more now. We didn't have the internet, the games and the computers, and all these wonderful ways to do things now that we couldn't do before. I mean, you had to go to the library and spend hours and days there researching now. And you can get that done by just watching 3 or 4 videos on YouTube now, So many things have changed for the better, but then so many things have worsened. Now, my dad, he was able to support me, my 2 sisters, my mom on one job, black suburb, middle class. And my dad was able to do that, working the one job. He had his own business. He wasn't killing himself. He was doing just fine. Me and my sisters were all going to private school, right? But can't do that anymore. I mean, even if you and your wife are working, it's hard to do that. In California, you have to be able to have like a $250K annual income just to be able to afford a 3-bedroom house that's going to cost you $4 million in a not so cool neighborhood where, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Gen Z has to face it. And then they've got all these student loans that they have to pay for. And even writers, like one of the writers for Orange is the New Black, he won an Emmy. He had to work a second job as a bartender, and he's a staff writer on a television show. And when he won his Emmy, he had to borrow a tie from a friend to go get his Emmy. What the F is that, man? That's ridiculous. It's like there are some greedy buttholes, I hate to say it, from my generation who are just taking everything and leaving nothing for anybody else. That's what the whole last 2 strikes are about, I don't understand how some studio executive who's getting 50, 60, 80 million dollars a year and refuses to pay the writers or the actors a fair wage, and you can see it. You can see it in a lot of shows. They'll spend millions and millions of dollars on everything else but the writing. And there's a reason for that. Rather than pay a seasoned writer who can write like crazy $400,000 to get some new person who's ridiculously happy they even got a job to write the same television series for $40K. And it shows. There's no saying, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. That's one thing. When I get my writer's room, there's going to be seasoned writers on it. I'll have WJ interns to bring in the newbies the way I was brought in, but the writers are going to be seasoned. I'd rather spend the money on good writing because we all see it today in Hollywood. If the writing ain't there, it's dead in the water. They do stupid thing now. Being an African American, the one thing that frustrates the crap out of me is seeing some performative bullshit where they took a white character and made them black because they don't know how to write. That's what's going on. They don't have a clue how to write for a black character, so they'll take a white character and make him black. They do the same thing to gay characters. And I don't know why people from the gay community aren't more pissed off about it. But they'll have some guy walk in and they'll just go, "Hi, I'm so-and-so's gay lover." See it. And then we don't see him for the rest of the season. That's it. They think that's all they got to do. You know what I mean? But there are some television series that have a gay character and they explore them fully and they make it a complex character. For instance, Black Sails. They had a character on there. We didn't even know he was gay, but he was trying to find his buddy and he seemed obsessed over it, right? And we couldn't figure out why, because this guy's supposed to be the most incredible pirate in the Caribbean. You know what I mean? He's like the Dread Pirate Roberts and Jack Sparrow mixed in one with a little gun-toting character that Keanu Reeves plays all the time. John Wick, with little John Wick thrown in there, okay? And he's a real ass kicker, but he's obsessed on finding this guy. Well, at the end of the series, he does find him, right? But just before he finds him, we realize the reason he's so obsessed, they were gay lovers, okay? Then he goes to jail and we figure, he's never going to find the guy. The guy's in the jail. And he doesn't know it until they're both working in the field for the prison, right? And they look over and see each other. So the guy went to jail and it turns out to be a happy ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that had me, I was going, wow, what a twist. You know what I mean? And there are some television shows that should never try to write for a black character, ever. Because all they're going to do is, I'm not going to mention what series it is, but there was a series that everybody I knew that was black wanted to see a black character come out on that series. It was a sitcom. They all wanted to see a black character walk out in their position. Oh man, when they show a black character, it's going to be awesome. You know what I mean? But every time they showed a black character, the joke was, look, they're black. That was the joke. That was it. Okay? I'm not even going to, maybe one day I'll tell what that show was. But I was so horribly disappointed, and every other black person I know was just horribly disappointed. And that's when one of my grandfather's favorite sayings popped in my head. Be careful what you ask for, you might get it. So there was another television show that never showed black people. After this experience, I said, no, and I hope they never do, because I don't trust their writing. And I'll even say it, It was Friends. All my black friends wanted to see a black character on Friends. And I said, no, you don't. There's a reason why they don't write black characters. Because they can't. They don't have the skill. They had a black girl come on there once. She was supposed to be some guy's girlfriend. She was on there for a few episodes and she was gone. And I was glad they never tried to do anything else besides that. You know, I may sound like a cynic, but I learned my lesson the hard way. You know, there are people who are not from a protected class, and they cannot write for a protected class, not if their life depended on it. One of my most popular episodes from Star Trek was an episode called Dr. Bashir, I presume. And it was about the one character on Deep Space Nine that was horribly underserved. Nobody was writing stories for this guy. All the other characters on Deep Space Nine had these incredible backstories. You know, Worf, the mighty Klingon warrior, and what was the Irish guy who had been the engineer on the Enterprise? O'Brien.
Miles O'Brien.
Miles O'Brien, and Kira Nerys, the freedom fighter from Bajor, and Garrick, who was like a double agent, maybe a triple agent. Right? They all had these fantastic, and the only thing anybody ever knew about Julian Bashir was he came in second on the Starfleet medical exam. That's it. But I realized that was a blank slate. So I won't tell you. I would prefer everybody go watch it so you can find out what I did. I said, you know what? This guy, he needs a fantastic backstory. And I came up with one, okay? The thing that motivated it, like every other writer, I got an ego. One thing, you can't let your ego get in the way of your writing. Your ego's got to serve your writing. And I'll tell you how. Nick Correa, the executive producer, got me in the business. The thing that shocked him the most about the Spec script that I gave him, that he sent to Paramount, my script was about one of his characters that he created for the show, right? And he said, the most frustrating thing is he gets a script from a prospective writer and they're always guest character driven. It's about some character brought in from out of nowhere that writer wants to pump up and make so great that he'll become a recurring character on the show. That's fantasy crap, you know, but that's the writer's ego talk. And Nick would get so frustrated. His attitude was, what's the matter? My characters ain't good enough for you? What about my character? And so my story was about one of his characters. It was all about his character and going through hell and everything. And he'd go, my God, it's about my character. You actually like my character, right? So that's my advice to anybody who's a aspiring writer. If you're going to write for another show in particular, don't introduce a guest character and make it a guest character driven show. Write about one of the characters in the show that's well established, that is probably people know the less of. He's underserved. Find something really cool to work with that character, and you'll impress the boss. The guy who says, executive, do something, you'll be impressing the crap out of him if you do a great job on his character. There was another funny situation. I knew a guy, he loved Seinfeld. And what he did was brilliant. That's what got me my job on Star Trek The Next Generation, was I sent in a Renegade script. Tons of people were sending in Star Trek scripts, but those guys know those characters backwards and forwards. So if the character in the Star Trek script started talking in a way that didn't fit the character, well, that guy just blew his script, right? They know those characters backwards and forwards. So you weren't going to outwrite them on that. So I didn't try. I sent them a Renegade script, and that was about a bounty hunter, Lorenzo Lamas, on a Harley Davidson motorcycle, and his boss, the guy who owned the bail bondsman, was a Native American. These guys at Star Trek didn't know about that kind of stuff. What the hell do they know about Harley Davidsons and motorcycle guys and criminals? So they had to judge my script on different things. Did I have a well-defined character arc? Did my characters sound different? Did I know my story? I was hitting all those buttons, right? So this guy figures out the same thing. He didn't talk to me or anything, but he figured the same thing out with Seinfeld. He wrote an I Love Lucy episode. And it was an ass-kicking I Love Lucy episode. And he sent it into Seinfeld. They loved it and they hired him, you know? Because everybody knows I Love Lucy, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. He wrote one that was so cool that they should have produced for that series. And they loved it and they hired him. Boom, just like that. The other piece of advice I would say, if you want to write for a show, don't send a spec script in on that show. Send a spec script in on something else that you might figure they like too, and then do an ass-kicking job of it. That's another thing. Don't submit something that's out of genre. Don't send a thriller to a sitcom company. Studios specialize in certain genres, certain niches. They go to that company that does that kind of work because they do that kind of work. And they're most likely the ones that have something that they're going to want. So if they want a sitcom, they go to a company that produces sitcoms. If they want a procedural cop series, they go to a, studio that does procedural cop shows. They want a game show, like a reality show, they go to a company that produces reality shows. Mm-hmm. So don't send your reality show to a place that does science fiction high concept. You know what I mean? Find a show that's the most like yours. Wait to the end of the credits and wait to see the name of the production company that comes up. That's who you send it to, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say you wanted to get on the next season of We Who Are About to Die, okay? Mm-hmm. What you might send them is a really butt-kicking Game of Thrones script. Mm-hmm. That might work. Or I just realized there sure aren't a whole lot of action-adventure shows on the air now. I'm racking my brain trying to think. Okay, all right, so, you want to get a job on the writing staff for Stranger Things. Mm. I would write an ass-kicking Twilight Zone. Mm. I bet you those guys respect the hell out of Twilight Zone, right? So write a great Twilight Zone episode and then submit that. I don't watch too many sitcoms now. But let's say there's a sitcom that you really like. Write a great Office episode, a really fantastic Office episode. That will probably kick butt. I bet you that will get you a job. See, other than that, never stop reading, never stop learning. Mm. I still read how to write books. I still watch YouTube videos on how to write.
I do the same thing for continuing education. I'm constantly watching videos, even if it's a skill set that I haven't used for a while, like 3D modeling or rendering. I'm watching people's videos of how they go through their process for everything 3D related. I'm constantly watching different sketching videos and how people actually go through their process from developing a character concept all the way through not just a single finished art piece, but actually doing orthographics and laying out a character design so that they can use it for a video game or a movie or what have you. Continuing your education is something that honestly should be fun if you want to be successful. You should enjoy looking up the stuff that you're interested in doing. I've had some jobs and some career moments where I'm very good at doing the job and I'm very proficient at doing the job, but it's not something that I'm really passionate about and it's something that I really enjoy. And those are things that I am not doing anymore. And while I could be successful with that, it's something that wouldn't have me be happy with either myself or my career in the long term.
See, that's when you know you're in the right, because like I said, it took me till I was like 40 years old to find out what I really wanted to do, because I didn't know anything that I would want to do for 12 and 14 hours a day until I got on the movie set. Even when I was doing other things, like not writing, I was in love with being on the set. I would hurry to be the first person on the set, and I'd be the last person to leave, pissed off when I got to go home. You know what I mean? Alex knows I would spend 14 hours a day or more on writing a script. And when I'm writing, I write until I can't. I only stop to use the bathroom and fix something to eat. You know, I bring food in to last for a while, so I don't even have to leave and go to the supermarket. And I just write until I can't anymore. And then I collapse in the bed and I wake up, take a shower, start all over again. And that's how I was able to finish this feature film that's getting looked at. I did that in a month. And before that, I did a pilot episode in a week. No, it was 2 weeks. And I grind like crazy. But you know what? That's the key to success. I'm getting ready to give you guys the keys to the castle. You find something you love so much that you would almost pay somebody else to let you do it. You have found your niche, because in order to be a success at anything in life, you have to devote that kind of time and effort to it. If it's basketball playing and you're Michael Jordan, yeah, happily put in 12 and 14 hours a day because you love it that much. And it takes that kind of commitment to get good and proficient at what you do, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the way I am about writing. I mean, the only thing that can get me away from games is writing.
I know Alex and I have briefly talked about it, the writer strikes that happened. At least from my perspective, it was more of still with the rest of the public in terms of our understanding and perspective on what was going on. Us in the visual effects side of things, we were just kind of waiting and seeing if stuff's going to change, how's it going to impact us. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving more insight as to what went into it, why did strikes happen, what the writers were trying to get out of it.
I think a lot of the problems start from the shortened television series that we have now, 8 and 10 episodes, you know. It makes it difficult for people who work behind the camera to keep that income coming. Because it used to be when I was selling episodes of Star Trek, we had 24 episode seasons, right? And that kept people at work. And then you go on hiatus and you could weather the hiatus just fine. And then you come back to work for another 24 episodes. Turns out that it's very difficult for people now to maintain the same level of income when you're only working on 8 or 10 episodes. It's like you got to have another television series lined up to do that, right? And then the studios start tweaking things, like trying to play the same episode on several sort of platforms without reimbursing people for those plays. And that's just wrong. I mean, how do you expect the best talent to live if you're not going to pay them a living wage? Because that's basically going to hurt your production. Hollywood seems very counterintuitive to me when it comes to paying people what they deserve to be paid, because there are so many other ways for people to spend their time. You know, we're not locked in front of a television with only 3 major networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and maybe
PBS.
PBS, yeah, that's terrible because I love PBS. We aren't stuck with those anymore. The choices are endless. You know, and look at all the stuff on Netflix and Amazon and blah, 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 blah. And then you got games. And, you know, if you're an athletic person, you're here in California, you got all these activities you can get involved in and wonderful things in the game stores. And oh my God, you know, there's so much to do and get involved with. You're cutting your own throat. And people are more sophisticated today than ever before. They are very sophisticated consumers of entertainment. They can spot poor production values when they see it. They know a story when it isn't working. So you need to keep that pump primed with quality people, and you need to pay these people what they deserve to be paid. If I was like the CEO of one of these big studios, I'd take $20 million left to make sure everybody else can get paid. I mean, seriously, how many golden toilet seats can I sit my ass on at one time? I just don't understand the level of greed. But you know what? All that stuff is coming full circle now. But it's all coming around now because you got these things like what happened to P. Diddy, who was possibly doing some very sneaky and underhanded things with people behind closed doors and with their money. And now it looks like everybody's getting exposed. Everybody who was doing something dirty and underhanded in Hollywood is getting exposed now. You know, it's chickens coming home to roost, you know? I've had some people tell me that they need this kind of person and they need that kind of person to get a show off the ground. But they're not taking interviews right now because they want to see who's left standing when the dust settles. Because the last thing they want to do is hire so-and-so. And then they find out that so-and-so was doing this, that, and the other thing, you know? So I think there's going to be a lot of fallout. And maybe that's what needs to happen. A lot of these greedy bastards will get kicked out of the industry. And I can only hope that there'll be more people with more integrity that get into these higher positions. You know, because it's getting so bad now. As Alex knows, I got a plan. In a way, I'm trying to get out of Hollywood in a way that I can maintain a lot of independence because I'm just so sick of the crap. You know, it's getting to the point now where it's not a matter of if you're going to get screwed over by Hollywood, but when. And who needs that, you know?
Yeah.
I hate to say, you know, the racism, the sexism, the ageism, the ism. And then they're going to screw you out of money too. Well, at some point, you got to say, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. You got to be something better else going on elsewhere. You know, that's what I liked about Steve Jobs was he questioned everything. And because he did that and he didn't take anything at face value, he actually revolutionized the industry. But it's people like that always change everything. Growing up in Detroit, when you're a kid, all you hear about is Henry Ford this and Henry Ford that, how he changed everything. Because before Henry Ford, there were cars. And the people who made cars made lots of money because rich people were buying them. And they were getting custom cars and they were doing good. But Henry Ford thought about what would happen if he more or less democratized industry. Mm-hmm. What if he made cars that everybody could afford? Like that old joke is, you can get a Model T in any color you want as long as it's black, because he had to have cars coming off the assembly line so fast that the common man could buy them. So he didn't have time for all these colors and stuff. And sure enough, that changed America. The way Steve Jobs changed computer industry, absolutely changed America. And even the way Bill Gates did. Once again, there's that finding a place that's underserved and then filling the niche. That's priceless. As Alex will tell you, I think I have discovered some unfulfilled niches. And if I can do what Henry Ford did, what Bill Gates did, and what Steve Jobs did, is find a way to fill that niche with a great product, it's going to change the industry. I think one of the biggest ways you can tell that an industry is about ready for the fall is when they start showing blatant arrogance. The automobile industry did that. They forgot the lesson of Henry Ford. The 60s came around. The motto for Detroit was big cars make big profits, little cars make little profits. And they forgot all about the consumer, the one that doesn't have the money to buy the big car and just wants a reliable means of transportation. That opened the door for Japan to come in. I was there. I was in Detroit. I saw it. I lived through that change. I saw the turmoil and the people getting fired out of the plants and plants shutting down. I was there. I saw that. And the little cars flooding the streets from Japan. It's because Detroit got arrogant. It got its ass kicked so bad by Japan. And then later on, much later by Volkswagen and the Korean companies, that it never bounced back. Not really. And if it wasn't for Barack Obama, it would have died in the 90s, completely died. Not 90s, but the 2000s.
Yeah.
So when you forget those important lessons, you're going to suffer. And there's a lot of things that's going on in America that are based out of arrogance. And they're cruising for a bruise. Somebody's going to come in who's not going to respect their precious status quo, going to come up with a new way and a better way of doing things, and they will never come back. Just like Detroit. And Detroit at one point was providing 80% of the automobiles in the world.
Wow.
In the world. But they got arrogant. You know what they say? Absolute breeds out. What does it say?
Corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, absolute power corrupts absolute. I'm telling you. So there are a lot of ways that America is screwing up right now, but I'm keeping my mouth shut because I'm looking to fill some of those niches. And it sure seems like nobody else is spotting them. And like I said, that's going to work in my favor. That's what I use to get ahead with at Star Trek, And if things play out in the next couple of months, you'll find out I figured something out about Hollywood. And if I'm right, I'll be moving someplace else more profitable. We'll see how that plays out. So yeah, the strikes were well deserved because there are people right now that are living in arrogance. It's like they love the smell of their own.
Yeah.
And they're going to fall. They're going to fall hard. That's what happens. I mean, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, is from arrogant people who think they control the world until they get taken down. That's how the world works.
Yeah, I think that's good, man. I think we could wrap things up. Appreciate you coming on, man, sharing with us some insight of your experience in the industry, and good conversation, man. Appreciate having you on.
One of the things I leave with is there's a motto that I send out on every email, every message, and every letter. At the bottom of it, I say, this far by faith. You've got to have faith in what you're doing because faith will take you all the way. Yeah, I had to have faith. When I was sitting at that typewriter in my kitchen, banging away with my kids running around playing with Hot Wheels at my feet, a couple of times I stopped and said, what the f am I doing? Thinking that what I'm writing at this kitchen table, somebody's going to pay me tens of thousands of dollars for. Am I nuts? I need to go out there and get another job. I can't be sitting here banging away at this typewriter. Having faith in myself was the smartest thing that I ever did. The whole world opened up after that.
Yeah. So anything, any events you got coming up that people might check you out in, or any socials you want to drop?
With Alex and a couple other guys, I do something called a panel at the Comic-Cons.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Black to the Future. We discuss certain elements of the industry and hobbies or whatever, and how it affects Black people who are participating or trying to participate in it. The last one we had was about cosplay, Black people involved in cosplay, and it went very well. It was at the San Diego Comic-Con. It went so well, we're going to do it again at WonderCon. So look at WonderCon for my panel, Black to the Future. What was the tagline we had on that, Alex?
We ain't all dressed up for nothing.
Yeah, yeah, Black to the Future cosplay heaven. We didn't get all dressed up for nothing. So we're going to be talking about, certain challenges and things to people who indulge in cosplay and from an African-American or an Afrocentric point of view. And next year, oh boy, at San Diego Comic-Con, you're definitely wanting to be a part of that. 2 years ago, our guest of honor, a female Black astronaut, last name is Kegel, and she was our guest of honor. There have only been 6 Black astronauts in our program, and she's the active one. She's the senior astronaut. And if there's a mission to Mars or like a second mission to the moon, she's probably going to be in command of, okay? Well, I'm proud to announce that this February, she is being promoted to Brigadier General of the Air Force. And she's going to be our guest again at Black to the Future. Also, the only Black woman who has ever flown a spaceship for, what's Mustang X?
Yeah, X.
Yeah, X.
SpaceX.
Yeah. She flew the SpaceX rocket on a mission. So she's the only Black woman who have ever piloted a spaceship. She's another guest. And I met personally, and I'm inviting Mae Jemison, who is the only astronaut to ever appear in a Star Trek episode.
Oh, wow.
And who was inspired by Nichelle Nichols to join the space program. And I actually met her at a special tribute to Nichelle Nichols at the LA Comic-Con a couple of years ago. All right. So I guess I'm ready to sign off, fellas. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been great having you on, man.
It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, I'm out.
There we have it. Thanks, Alex, for co-hosting with me. Got to finally have a sit down with your buddy, Jimmy Diggs.
Buddy, boss, entrepreneur.
A lot of great insight. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I know we did. And yeah, until next time.